Today's lesson, and the title is the Lord's Sabbath, the seventh day, a day of rest both now and future. This lesson is about the importance of observing God's Sabbath, which is the seventh day, and we're going to see that there's no such thing as a Jewish Sabbath or a Christian Sabbath. Sabbath means to rest, and the day of the Sabbath, or the day of rest, was granted to man long before there were any Jew or Gentile on this earth, long before there were any nation. And it's important not to only understand when God's Sabbath is, but also to understand the importance of observing it. Because in the keeping of God's Sabbath, that is a sign between God and his people. It is showing God that you believe in his plan of salvation for men, and that you're not caught up in the man's tradition. Again, Sabbath means to rest. And the weekly Sabbath is pointing to 1,000 years of peace that the Lord is going to bring upon this earth when Jesus sets up his kingdom. And so you're to rest now in observing the weekly Sabbath in the hopes to entering into the future rest. Again, when Jesus established his kingdom, that's why we pray, thy kingdom come. You refrain from participating in all of the various activities you find yourself immersed in, including work, if possible. I say if possible because you do have to eat. And if you're not in a position that would allow you to observe the Sabbath as God intended, then you pray to the Lord that he intervene on your behalf. But now, also know that just as the Sabbath is a sign between God and his people, not keeping the Sabbath is also a sign. It's showing God that you don't believe in him, but rather that you believe in the commandments of men. And that's all Sunday worship is. It is a commandment that came from Emperor Constantine in 321 AD when he decreed that the Christian Sabbath would be on the first day of the week. But again, we're going to see clearly that the only Sabbath there is that is of any importance is the Sabbath that belongs to the Lord. We're going to see in the course of this lesson, again, that God's Sabbath is the seventh day of the week, and that it is a time of rest. Sabbath means to rest. You're to cease from all your labors. You're to cease from all your other activities, and you're to focus on the Lord. This is his day. And we're going to see how the Sabbath is to be observed, what you should and should not be doing. And we're going to see that the Sabbath was instituted to provide man a day of rest now, and it's also pointing to a time of rest in the future. As I stated, it's pointing to 1,000 years of nothing but peace when the Lord sets up his kingdom. And we're going to look and see what that rest is ultimately going to be like. And again, we're also going to see that each of us have an opportunity or a chance to enter into that rest. We're going to start this lesson off in Mark, the 2nd chapter. And again, the title is the Lord's Sabbath, the seventh day, a day of rest both now and future. And in Mark, the 2nd chapter, here Jesus tells you who the Sabbath belongs to and why it was brought into existence. Mark 2, and pick it up at verse number 23, 2 and 23. You go ahead when you get there. 2 and 23. You go ahead when you get there.
And it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day. And his disciples began, as they went, to pluck the ears of corn.
Go ahead.
And the Pharisees said unto him, Behold, why do they on the Sabbath day that which is not lawful?
So now the religious people during Jesus' day, they're going to question Jesus about the activities of his disciples. But go ahead. What did he tell them? Go ahead.
25. And he said unto them, Have you never read what David did? When he had need and was in hunger, he and they that were with him.
What did they do? Because they would have did something that was unlawful during that time. And what was that? Go ahead.
How he went into the house of God in the days of Abiathar, the high priest.
And did what?
And did eat the showbread.
And see, the showbread, the bread was there for the priest. It was not for the common man. But what did they do?
Which is not lawful to eat, but for the priest. And gave also to them which were with him.
See, they had a need And they needed to address that. And Jesus is showing them that you have to understand the spirit of the law and not get caught up in the legalism. Because he tells them in another place, if you read this, he would tell them, which one of you would not have an oxen that falleth into a ditch and would not retrieve it on that time? Because he had healed the man, and then they questioned him concerning that. But go ahead, what did he tell them? See, because the Sabbath is not to be a burden. We're going to find out that the Sabbath is for man's benefit. Go ahead.
27. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man.
Go ahead.
And not man for the Sabbath.
See, it was instituted for man's benefit. But understand something. Who brought the Sabbath into existence? Not man. God is the one who brought the Sabbath into existence. Listen to what Jesus said. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath.
Therefore what?
Therefore the Son of Man is the Lord also of the Sabbath.
He's the Lord of the Sabbath that he instituted. And the one who brought the Sabbath into existence was none other than Jesus. He was God in the beginning. Before he walked this earth as a flesh and blood man, we're going to see when he brought the Sabbath into existence. He said, but the Sabbath, it was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not to be a burden for man. And we're going to see how the Sabbath was to benefit man. But first turn over to Matthew the 15th chapter. So Jesus said he's the Lord over the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made or created for man's purpose. But now man does not want to keep the Sabbath that God instituted. They want to follow the traditions of man. Just like last week, they were caught up in man's tradition. But we're going to read and see what Jesus has to say concerning the traditions of man that cause men to transgress God's commandments. 15:1. Go ahead.
Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees.
Again, they're going to chide Jesus for what it is his disciples are doing. Go ahead.
Which were Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders?
See, they're concerned with their traditions. And the tradition they were hung up on was what?
For they wash not their hands when they eat bread.
See, their thing was, you need to be clean. You need to have your hands clean before you eat. And if not, you're breaking one of their traditions. Look, that's your dirty hands going into your mouth. That's between you and your sister. God ain't never said anything about that, because when you understand, you were made from dirt. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you do that, but as I always say when I read this verse, there's not one of us who has not dropped some on the ground and nobody was around and picked it up, wiped it off on their clothes like it made a difference, and popped it in their mouth. That's what we do. One time I dropped some ice cream off an ice cream cone and tried to retrieve it. It don't work. But go ahead.
Verse 3. But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition?
He's saying, why do you sin by breaking God's commandments in favor of keeping your tradition? Understand something. Turn over to 1 John. Keep your finger here. We're coming right back. Turn to 1 John 3:4. Understand what Jesus is saying when he says you transgress the commandments of God in order to keep your tradition. Read that one verse for me, because we want to know what sin is. We want to know what it is that Jesus was talking about. This is the biblical definition of sin. What does it say? Go ahead.
Whosoever committed sin transgresseth also the law.
Because what is sin?
For sin is the transgression of the law.
Now you can come back. Again, when he told them they transgress the commandments of God in favor of their traditions, they are sinning in favor of keeping their own traditions. That's what people are going to be doing tomorrow. They're not going to attend the Holy Convocation on the day that God commanded them to. What they're going to do is they're going to go to church and grow on the day that man commanded, not God. And thus, by not keeping the Sabbath as God commanded, they're sinning against God. But drop down to verse number 6. And what did Jesus say? Because he gave them an example of this. I'm not dealing with that. But what I want to know, what I want to show is what's going to be the result of keeping man's tradition and transgressing the commandments of God. Verse 6, go ahead.
And honor not his father or his mother, you shall be free.
Because what he was talking about here, they took the commandment that God gave, honor your father and your mother, and they had said that it was a gift. Well, and if a gift is something that you freely give. So they say, well, if I don't do this, then I'm free from the penalty of the commandment. Because again, the gift is freely given. But God issued that commandment unconditionally. It does not have nothing to do with a gift. Everybody has to obey this. Because everybody has a mother and a father. Everybody has to adhere to this commandment. He said, and honor not his father or his mother shall be free. Thus have they done what?
Thus have you made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition.
But what do they still profess to do? Go ahead.
Ye hypocrites. Well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying,
what?
This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth.
And do what?
And honoreth me with their lips.
But how are they in position with God?
Well,
in reality. Go ahead.
But their heart is far from me.
People will tell you how much of a Christian they are. They will tell you how much they love the Lord, but yet and still won't do nothing that God has to say. Think about your own selves. If your own children tell you or profess you how much they love you, but then turn around and are hard-headed as they can be, how much love are they truly demonstrating? They won't do nothing you tell them. The same thing with God. What did he say? Jesus said, if you love me, and keep my commandments. Not the commandments of men, because when you keep the commandments of men, you're showing men his respect. But when you break God's commandments, you're showing God your hatred or disdain for him. He's going to let you know what happens when you break his commandments in favor of the keeping the tradition of men. Go ahead.
But in vain they do worship me.
Listen, this is Jesus talking. He said, but in vain they worship me. In other words, you could worship God and it could be for nothing. Right. All your labor will be for nothing because it is not done in accordance to what thus said the Lord. He wrote this book here for a reason, and it was our instruction manual as to how to serve him, how to treat our fellow man. He didn't write this here so that another man can come along. Another man, when I say another man, God is God. He's the supreme being. But a man will come along, and men have come along throughout history and have come up with their own laws and interpretations as to how to read the Bible. The Bible is not to be interpreted. The Bible will speak for itself if you take the time and allow it to. That's why we go line upon line, here a little and there a little. Let all the witnesses tell you about the subject matter, and at the end of the day, you will know what thus say the Lord. Not what I say. All I'm doing is directing you to where the scriptures are. And there's only one truth. So if I'm telling the truth, anything contrary to this is a lie. Go ahead.
Teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
He's telling you, if you follow the instructions to worship God, because that's what a doctrine is, if you follow the instructions to worship God based on the commandment of a man, your worship of God will be for nothing. Read Matthew the 7th chapter, and that's why Jesus said, not everybody that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father that is in heaven. Because many shall say unto me in that day, have we not done wonderful works in thy name? Have we not prophesied in thy name? Have we not cast out devils in thy name? He's talking to people who consider themselves to be followers of Christ, followers of Jesus, but they're not doing it in accordance to what was written. So he said their worship will be for nothing. Does not matter how often you go to church on Sunday, it is a waste of time. Now he said that he was the Lord over the Sabbath, did he not? And that the Sabbath was made for man. Turn to Genesis, the 2nd chapter. We're going to see when the Sabbath was brought into being. And we're going to see what the Sabbath was established for. Because as I said, the Sabbath means to rest. Genesis 2, at verse number 1, first chapter of Genesis was dedicated to what's known as the creation. Talking about God's creation of this earth in preparation for man's existence. The earth had already existed because he created it in the beginning, when he created the heavens and the earth. But then the earth, it tells you in the first chapter of Genesis, the earth was void and without form. And then the Lord prepared it for man's existence. 2 in 1. He's going to tell you what he did at the end when he got through creating in reference to man's creation. Go ahead.
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them.
Go ahead.
And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made.
So he had finished his work concerning his creation for man. He said, and on the seventh day he ended his work which he had made. And what did he do?
And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made.
God is setting a precedent for man to follow. Because we will find out God does not get tired. God does not need to rest. He's setting the principle for us to follow. He said, and on the seventh day God ended his rest which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all the work which he had made. And what else did he do with the seventh day? Go ahead.
And God blessed the seventh day.
And did what?
And sanctified.
See, he set this day apart. This is the day that he is the Lord over. This is the Sabbath. He named that day. All the other days, if you read the first chapter of Genesis, he just assigned them a number. But the seventh day, we're going to find out that is the Sabbath of the Lord. He's going to tell you in all your dwellings, wherever you are. He said, and God blessed the seventh day. He did that. He set it apart. Because what?
Because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made.
This is the day that God made for man. This is the Sabbath. It is the seventh day. This is the day that the Lord, this is the Sabbath that the Lord is over. Not the first day of the week. That has nothing to do with God. That has nothing to do with the worship of God. That has to do with the tradition of men. Turn over to Isaiah, the 40th chapter. Because we're going to see why the Lord set this precedent. Because as I said, everything I say because I can read it out of this book. And I said, God don't get tired. He didn't need to rest. Now Isaiah's going to let you know that. Isaiah 40, we're going to pick it up at verse number 25. We're going to see why God instituted the Sabbath. And understand when he did that, the only one that was there was Adam and Eve. There was no nations. There were no Gentiles. There was no such thing as what we refer to as a Jew. There is no such thing as a Christian Sabbath or a Jewish Sabbath. The only Sabbath of significance is the Sabbath that belongs to the Lord. And that is the seventh day. Isaiah 40 and 25. Go ahead.
To whom then will ye liken me? Or shall I be equal? Saith the Holy One.
And the one who's saying this, we know is none other than Jesus. Jesus told you in John. He's the only God that man has ever seen. The Father you've never seen his shape nor heard his voice at any time. The only God that man has ever had any interaction with is none other than Jesus. In Genesis, the first chapter, that's Jesus. He's the one that created the heavens and the earth. Paul tells you all things were created by him. And there was nothing made that was not made by him. All things were created by the one that John refers to as the Word. He was God in the beginning. He's the one that established the Sabbath for men. And now he's saying, whom will ye liken me to, or who shall I be equal to, said the Holy One. Go ahead.
Lift up your eyes on high, and behold,
what?
Who hath created these things, that bringeth out their hosts by number.
Go ahead.
He calleth them all by name, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faith.
Who created the heavens and the earth and all that there is therein? Who placed the sun there and the moon? Who hung out the earth as if it's on a string, just suspended in midair? Is that not that God? Drop down to verse number 28. Go ahead.
Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard? That the everlasting God,
Go ahead.
Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth.
What about it?
Fainteth not, neither is weary.
God does not get tired.
Right.
He does not need to rest.
Right.
He established that precedent for the one who he knew would need some rest. He established that for the man that he had created. He said, hast thou not known, hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainted not, neither is weary? He ceased from all he had done because he had finished what he was to do. Now it's up to man. But go ahead.
There is no searching of his understanding.
It is unlimited. Go ahead. But what does he do?
He giveth power to the faint.
He's talking about us. He gives power to those that are weary. And what?
And to them that have no might, he increaseth strength.
And how he gives you power and how he gives you strength is through the faith that you have in him. Think about the experiences that you encounter in life. And think about how weary you become. And think about how you are ready, as they say, you're at your wit's end. Sometimes people ask me, how you doing? I say, I'm hanging on. I'm barely hanging on. But what keeps me hanging on is my faith in my God. It is not my strength. I can't do nothing of myself, but I believe in the strength of the one who created me. So even when I feel like giving up, I know I can. Because I'm on a mission. I'm on a journey. I believe everything that he has said. And I know the promise that he made to me. The same promise that he made to everybody. All you got to do is endure to the end. And you too shall be saved. All you got to do is hold on and keep going. Keep believing in him and keep being obedient unto him. And just as the Father raised up Jesus from the dead, he will bring you back from the dead. That's my faith. That's what I believe in. That's what keeps me going. I'm the weary just like everybody else in here is weary. I get just as tired as everybody else in here. And sometimes I even get tired. But I know what thus say the Lord, and that is what keeps me going. He said he giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increases strength. Go ahead.
30. Even the youths shall faint and be weary.
And what?
And the young men shall utterly fall.
See, I remember how I used to think when I was young. You think you're going to go on forever. You think that your strength will never abate. You think that your strength will never leave you until you get a little bit older. Right now, my bedroom is upstairs. I collect all I need before I go downstairs because I ain't trying to come back up no more. He said, even a youth shall faint and be weary, and a young man shall utterly fall. But what?
But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles.
Go ahead.
They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint.
If we decide to live with him, we decide to obey him, abide by his commandments. He said, but they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. And they shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. And they shall walk and not faint. Turn over to Exodus, the 16th chapter. Because it says God is the one, he blessed the Sabbath day. He sanctified that day. It's the seventh day. That is the day. That's the Sabbath that Jesus is Lord over. But he said it was made for man. And now he's getting ready to reveal his Sabbath unto Israel. And he's going to show them his purpose. Because he brought them into the wilderness. He's going to sustain them. But now he's going to show them the principle when it comes to the Sabbath. And that is that it is a time of rest. 16:1. Exodus 16:1. You go ahead when you get there.
And they took their journey from Elim. And all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin. which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the
A
wilderness.
stiff-necked, hard-headed people here brought them up out of slavery. Released them from the bondage of the most strongest nation at that time, the Egyptians, and it brought them out into the wilderness, and they're going to come complain. But go ahead. Verse number 2.
And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them,
What?
Would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt.
When they did what?
When we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.
See, they murmur and they think against man, but Moses and Aaron didn't bring them out by their strength and their might. They came out by the hand of God. And their murmuring is not against a man, they're murmuring against God. And here they are sitting there. Now I said this is our DNA. That's another lesson for another time. But Israel is a black people that were sitting in slavery all over this world. And here we remain captives because our forefathers didn't obey God. He said, but they said, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of the Egyptians, when we sat by the flesh pot. In other words, wish we had died as a slave, because at least we had something to eat. Go ahead.
Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you.
Go ahead.
The people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day.
And what is he going to do?
And I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no.
He said, I'm going to do this for them, and I'm going to see for a certainty whether or not they're going to obey me. I'm going to feed them here in this desert. I'm going to sustain them for 40 years. But go ahead.
And it shall come to pass
what?
That on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in. And it shall be twice as much as they gather daily.
Because every day he was going to bring down bread from heaven, of this manna. And he says, it shall come to pass, though, that on the 6th day, they're going to get twice as much. Because on the 7th day, they're not to go out there gathering no bread. Because that's the day they're supposed to rest. But go ahead.
6. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, At even, then ye shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt.
Drop down to verse number 14. Go ahead.
And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoar frost on the ground.
And Israel didn't know what it was. And they're going to inquire, but go ahead.
And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another,
What?
It is manna. For they wist not what it was.
And what did Moses tell them?
And Moses said unto them, This is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat.
Drop down to verse number 21 and go ahead.
And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses.
Why did they have them gather twice as much on the 6th day? Go ahead.
And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said.
Now the Lord has said this again. God gave his word to Israel. Israel is God's chosen people. Understand what they were chosen to be, though. They were his priests. They were supposed to be a holy nation, a kingdom of priests. They were supposed to teach the rest of the sons of Adam how to serve the true and living God. So he showed and gave them everything. All his laws, his statutes, his commandments. Everything that is in this book. Everything that is in this Bible came from an Israelite. Everything. But go ahead.
Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord.
That's the 7th day. That's the day that he made. That's the day he sanctified and blessed. That is his Sabbath. That is the Sabbath that he is the Lord over. He said unto them, This is that which the Lord has said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Do what?
Bake that which ye will bake today.
You do that on the 6th day, enough to last you for what's taking place on the 7th day. Go ahead. And what you need on the 7th day. Go ahead.
And see that ye will see.
All the baking you're going to do, all the boiling you need to do, you do it on the 6th day. Because the 7th day it's supposed to be a day of rest. But go ahead.
And that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning.
Go ahead.
As Moses bade. And it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, eat that today. For today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field.
So what are they to do?
6 days ye shall gather it.
You work 6 days, and on the 7th day you do just like the Lord. You cease from all your labors. He says 6 days ye shall gather it, but what about the 7th day?
But on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath.
Again, the Sabbath not of the Jews, but the Sabbath of God. He said, but 6 days shall ye gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, what's going to happen?
And then there shall be none.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather.
And what happened?
And they found none.
What did the Lord say? Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws?
Notice what he didn't say. How long you refuse to keep the commandments of the laws of the Jews? He said, how long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? They don't belong to Israel. They were given unto them so that they could teach the rest of the people how to serve God. The Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments? He said, and my laws. Go ahead.
29. See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath.
He established it back in Genesis. He said, the Lord has given you this. As Jesus said, the Sabbath was made for man. Man was made for the Sabbath. It's to be a benefit to man because it means to rest, and you need to rest. Go ahead.
Therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Then no man go out of his place on the 7th day.
And so what did they do?
So the people rested on the 7th day.
Because Sabbath means to rest. Turn to Exodus, the 20th chapter. We're going to see what else the Lord did concerning his Sabbath, which is the 7th day. Exodus, the 20th chapter. These are what's known as the 10 Commandments. This is when God himself descended upon Mount Sinai. This is Jesus. He was God in the beginning. And he gave the commandments out of his own mouth. But listen to what he said. I'm not dealing with all of them, just the one that pertains to the subject we're dealing with today. Exodus 20 and verse number 8. What did he tell us to do? Go ahead.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
I'll tell you what, just to make sure we know who's talking, read verse number 1. Go ahead.
And God spake all these words, saying.
This is the Lord. Again, this is Jesus. Now read verse number 8 again, if you don't mind.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
He said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And in case anyone does not understand when the Sabbath is, he reiterates what you're to do. And what is that?
6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work.
He didn't say rest and then work. He said, no, you work and then you rest. And then you go work another 6 days and you rest. But the precedent had been set back in Genesis. He said, you remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. He said, 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work. But what are you supposed to do on the 7th day? Go ahead.
But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt do any work.
Go ahead.
Thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant.
Go ahead.
Nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate.
Understand, it was given unto Israel, but it's one law for all. One law for the stranger and one law for Israel. Everything that was given unto Israel, if anybody wants to serve the true and living God, they must do it in accordance to what was given to Israel. That's why Jesus said, talking to the Samaritan woman at the well, woman, ye know not what you worship. We know what we worship.